All right. Well, now that we're all refreshed with a good night's sleep and we have all of our faculties about us, Brian, shall we delve into Beach Break from AEW? It was in Chicago, that noted place for spring break on the beach. What?
Maybe he means it's a break from the beach for people who are at the beach.
They have to come back to the city from the beach where they are to have a break from the beach.
Stop enjoying your vacation. Come back to the Windy City. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Stop enjoying your vacation and watch our show. All right. Again, we're not going to try to do blow by blow on the matches as much as explain why all the matches blew. No, just I don't know what the fuck. There's something in there somewhere, but they can't figure it out. And I mean, now Ian Riccaboni is on the commentary team with Taz and old Sockface, and Tony Schiavone was there because he did interviews, but maybe they're giving us a rest of that or giving poor Tony a rest. He's a senior citizen now. But the first match was Will Ospreay and Hangnail Page against Josh Alexander. They call him old One Ear Alexander over there. And our friend Take a Shit. So they can have another dream match that involves 18 fucking people and 16 matches that they're going to have in the future. But again, did you notice during Ospreay's entrance, they got stuck in a double box with the same camera? And every time they were trying to get out of something. Did you see that, first of all, where they had the double box up?
That was the highlight of the episode, was when all of a sudden it was picture-in-picture of Ospreay while Ospreay was coming to the ring.
Well, yes, it's the picture-in-picture. I say double box. That's a technical term. The picture-in-picture was the same camera shot of Ospreay walking to the ring, and they would go full to a floor camera or something. And then they'd try to go back to that shot, and they'd have the double box again with the same thing. It was like something was stuck. So then they start this match, and it was like something was stuck. It's the same stuff they always do now with Alexander. And he was trying to be serious. And I mean, it's comedic that in his first night on television, they introduced him as a guy whose ear once fell off and he's got serious neck issues. So we're supposed to be scared of him. But
and then they beat him.
And then they beat him and they beat him again. And now they beat him here. Don't forget they beat him here. But it was 25 minutes into the show and there was still this match was going on. And they did a contrived back and forth at the finish where the baby faces, because Ospreay and Paige obviously are about to clash or collide or whatever. And so they don't trust each other. But they did this back and forth where the baby face would almost hit the other one. And then the other one would almost hit the other. It was so fast you couldn't follow it. And they took it far enough that it just wasn't believable. They did the baby face almost has a misunderstanding spot that has ever been done in wrestling, all of the same finish. And then finally, both the baby faces gave Alexander their goddamn finishes at the same time and beat him. The only new, fresh guy that might be interesting. Can we do something with him? He hadn't won a fucking match yet.
It's the same thing they did to Kevin Knight. He's looked good. They bring him in. He hasn't won a match.
Maybe he ought to bring somebody in and he looks like shit. Then he could win everywhere. Oh, I forgot. They did that with Pockets. But anyway, after the match that was won by the baby faces that can't get along, then Take ran up behind Ospreay and ran him into Paige, and the heels beat up Ospreay. But then he got up and started making his own comeback and then was spinning around, nailing everybody. When Paige walked up behind him, spun around and nailed him too. So the only thing he was missing was Tanaka throwing salt in Bruno and Pedro's eyes, Tanaka and Fuji. And then They've been pushed into each other twice, I believe, at this point. They've fucking one's punched the other. So then they stood there and yelled at each other and made menacing faces. The end. Did I miss any of the finer points?
It went a while. The crowd was one of those AEW crowds where they're there and they'll stare. And then every now and then you hear a chant and you look at the crowd and you're like, well, they're not really moving. Is it really coming from them? But it must be. It's almost like a new operatic way of getting your voice out there without moving or something.
Well, they like Harley Cameron. She's a ventriloquist.
It was fine. The problem was as soon as these four guys came out there, you knew that Josh Alexander was going to be the one to lose. Based on the way Tony books things and based on the people in this match, you just knew it. And that's exactly what happened. It just took 20 minutes to get there. I thought, just like you, the end spot where, and we've seen it plenty of times, where the baby faces almost hit each other and they tease something could happen. It was contrived. Contrived is the best word for it.
Why wouldn't a Paige, I know, has been a heel, but now he's apologized for all the heel things he did, kind of, or whatever. But Ospreay, why couldn't Ospreay have accidentally just hit Paige and Alexander beat Paige and then Paige be mad at Ospreay? But it was an accident. But nevertheless.
You know, the other thing is on the topic of Alexander, on the topic of Kevin Knight, whether they're world beaters or not, makes me wonder, doesn't have to be them. Is there anyone that AEW has brought in and just put over strong right away? Like really put over. Like they go out there and crush every week on TV for a month. Is there anyone?
Well, Bobby Lashley hadn't been beat yet that I remember.
Has he wrestled 4 matches on TV in a month? You know, the way you would naturally try to get someone over in the old days. Put them on every episode, crushing someone until they're over.
No, but I was going to say Shelton Benjamin has won most of them, but they beat him 3 weeks in because they were bringing Lashley in. MJF, again, didn't do a lot of jobs, but didn't wrestle a lot. There's no, I mean, you know, Pockets or one of the Japanese fantasy objects of Kenny.
You could actually argue they've booked Orange Cassidy stronger than anyone in the company in the history of the company.
Yeah. That's why it's so laughable. But at least he's got 2 legs, Brian.
That's not really a good transition here.
Well, I think, you know, it's apropos because at least Pockets has 2 legs, but our next competitor does not. So apparently Ricochet on Collision on Saturday or Thursday or whatever it aired last week stole the artificial leg of Zack Gowen, who has not been heard of, and at least that I know of, for a long, long time. And I guess because they were in Detroit, since they had Rhino come out and do a job, they brought the one-legged man to have some kind of ass-kicking contest and got his leg stolen, and now they drove him down to Chicago to get his leg back. And this is not a fucking rib, folks. They had Ricochet wrestle a one-legged man who used to be a wrestler 20 years ago, and I wasn't in favor of it then. And I know that there's been a lot of visually ridiculous things on this program, from the talent to the artificial walls they build to throw people through to the special effects that have gone awry. But can you imagine anybody that hasn't ever seen this wrestling program but is predisposed to watch a wrestling show, is used to the WWE, but maybe wants to see something a little different, and is flipping around and sees a one-legged wrestler fighting the midget that stole his fake leg?
I thought he was more impressive, too. If they really wanted to put him over, other than the finish, I thought he was great. He stole the show. And the last time I had heard of him, I think he did an assembly at one of my kids' schools.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious, like a few years back, just about like, you know, motivational thing. And they said it was good. He was a very nice guy. And Every kid wants to get out of class and go to
But
assembly.
what about school in New York brought this guy in from Michigan to...
I think it's like a circuit. I think like the people who go to your school, then go to the next school, then go to the next school. It's just they work a wrestling circuit, actually.
Those people they're operating out of a fucking unmarked white panel van.
Do you think this is the opportunity to bring back the legless guy from the early days of AEW in the Battle Royal and give him an opponent in his own division?
No, because he didn't have any legs. See, if he fought a one-legged man, that wouldn't be fair. Although maybe because he would have no legs, his balance would be better because, seems like Gowen would be sort of leaning sideways a lot of the time. Nevertheless, so they thought, I guess, this is going to get a bunch of heat on Ricochet to beat up the physically challenged individual, except that Ricochet from the start of the match was selling that he was afraid of the one-legged man and bailing out of the ring and fucking face like, oh shit, he's going to hurt me. And then everything on the air was the one-legged man kicking the shit out of Ricochet. They did like 2 minutes, then they went to a break right as Ricochet had stopped him, apparently for heat. And when they came back, Gowen was starting to come back. And then Ricochet stopped him and hit a 360-degree splash off the top and got a 2 count. And then hit him with a shooting star and got a 2 count. And then hit him with some other big kind of move I don't know the name of and got a 2 count. What the fuck? On a one-legged fucking 40-year-old guy that hasn't wrestled in 20 years. And then Ricochet went out and got the scissors. I can't beat him any other way. I must stab him through the heart. And when he gets in the ring, the referee, who's Knox, so of course this is going to be horrible, grabs the scissors away, goes to the ropes and calls for someone to amble over and get the scissors from him so he can turn his back for 45 seconds. While Gowen after Gowen has been 360'd and shooting starred and big Fernum Durnamed, he's up and has got his own leg and hits not the real one, the fake one, and hit Ricochet with the fake leg and covered him and got a 2 count. God damn, at this point, just win even. And then Gowen did a moonsault off the top, which he missed, and Ricochet hit a thinger-dinger 1, 2, 3. Everybody involved in this ought to be ashamed of themselves. And then Ricochet got back on Gowen, and Mark Briscoe ran out to save him. But every match, either the heel is going to win and then beats babyface up afterwards, or the heel is going to lose and then beats babyface up afterwards. Your thoughts on the one-legged man in the ass-kicking contest?
Sadly, this was one of the more entertaining things on this episode. There were a lot of things that I couldn't sit through. This, I had no problem sitting through. I thought Gowen, all things considered, was pretty impressive. Obviously, he's been practicing what he could do in this. Like I said, I think if the average person who tuned in, they would go, what is this? And then they would think he was the one being featured as a star, not Ricochet.
Yeah. And there's so many problems with it. And the fact that he can do all those things is amazing for him and spreads a thick layer of feces all over the credibility of the business. Okay, goddamn, do we bring a guy out in an iron lung and watch him climb up and do a moonsault?
For the record, the last man in an iron lung died, I believe, last year.
Well, he shouldn't try to do that moonsault. Anyway, moving on to the one redeeming feature of this program, the Hurt Syndicate. We heard people. MJF was in the back. First of all, they're talking to him. He's excited. I know this is going to happen tonight. I'm going to be involved with the Hurts. And the question comes up, well, what are they going to do to you if they say no? And then he's like, oh, you see him thinking. And then MVP comes in and says, we need to, make sure that you come to the ring after our match tonight. We've got something for you. Oh, so what's going to happen here? But in the meantime, they've got to have the World Tag Team Champions wrestle every once in a while. But as we've talked about for weeks now, it's ridiculous that there is no tag team physically over with the fans, work-wise, that is any kind of money match with these guys because everybody else is a bunch of fucking kids. And so here we have a couple of fucking kids, the Martin brothers, Top Flight, Dante and Devonshire, whatever his name is. And, they worked this match smart, I think the Hurts did, because they had the baby faces open up with a bunch of flying, double teaming, got them off balance. They could take some bumps for them because, oh shit, what's going on? And everything. And the faces did the snazzy stuff. And then, boom, they cut them both off. One of them was going to dive through on Lashley, and Lashley stand on the floor, caught him by the neck, and just fucking spun him around and rammed him into the post. And Shelton suplexed the other. And they beat him up, and they hurt locked Dante. And that was it. They gave the baby faces a bunch of their shit at the start, but if they had beaten these guys up and then let them come back at the end, it would have been ridiculous. And also the match was short. They didn't have time for it. So they got to shine in at the start and then boom, and it was pretty cut and dried from there. But you're thinking then, well, we're going to see, it's what everybody's waiting on. We will see MJF and what's going to go on here, right? That's the point of the thing. Well, suddenly, out comes Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara. Sammy's still there. Did you know Sammy was still there?
I did know that he was teaming with Dustin in Ring of Honor. I didn't know he was going to be so well dressed. Maybe it's a new Sammy Guevara.
He was dressed in a pale blue prom suit. Remember I told you that tuxedo that I wore to fucking Jerry Jarrett's housewarming? It was the same fucking color. I swear to God. So Dustin is out there with half his face painted, his whole bodysuit on and dressed to wrestle, and Sammy's in a prom outfit. And Dustin, he said something that contained the word asshole and got it bleeped. But then the Hurt Syndicate is in the ring. Dustin and Sammy are on the floor, and Dustin says, I think it's obvious what we want. And there was no reaction at all because no, it wasn't. Because they came, also Dustin and Sammy came out. They've got like 3 or 4 fucking belts hanging off of them. They got Ring of Honor tag team belts. There's another belt there. The 2 guys in the ring are the tag team champions. So they kind of half-ass explain they want a tag title versus tag title match, I guess. Or maybe they want just a match for the tag titles that the Hurts have without putting up there. I don't fucking know. Because suddenly, music play. You think, where's MJF? The music plays. Here comes Action Andretti and Leo Rush. And now it...
Crew. Their name is Crew.
Their name should be, who are those 2 guys that are 12 years old and 5'2"? Because they come out, and as soon as Andretti starts talking, the fans are shut the fuck up. And they're trying to bleep that. And Leo Rush talks to Lashley because they got history, right? And I've said Leo should be a manager. God damn it. But they want a tag team title match. Both of them together are not as big as Bobby Lashley. And Shelton Benjamin's better wrestler than Bobby Lashley. And then Dustin says, no, you can't cut in line. And they all start arguing. And then MVP has to say, okay, enough. You all fight on Collision. And the winner gets us at Double or Nothing. And I wrote, good God, because I see now the Hurts are trying to do their thing and their thing with MJF. But in the middle, they got shoehorned in this confrontation between Dustin Rhodes and a bunch of fucking whining children about who's going to have the match at the pay-per-view, that they had to do that and set up a match on Collision and then get them out of the way so that they could do the thing that everybody was waiting on. And then MVP said, well, I'm being told we've got to go to a break. But when we come back, MJF's going to get what he deserves. So now the MJF or MVP has to be the host of the fucking show now. Before I go any further, what the fuck? I would buy it if it was Dustin and Sammy and Andretti and Leo against Shelton and Bobby 4-on-2. It would be entertaining enough they'd go 8 or 10 minutes. Otherwise, what the fuck are we doing here?
Were you hoping, like I was hoping, that Crew would beat Dustin and Sammy? They got that tag title shot?
Well, they're not going to do it until Collision. So we don't know yet.
Well, yeah, and I think they may have taped it, or if they didn't. Either way, I don't know.
So we do know?
I don't know. It's Collision. I actually don't know for sure when it is taped or aired this week. But, yeah, that was a segment, all right. You know, we said they had no tag team division, and this was their response. Every tag team they could, they got out there, and this is all that they could.
And this is all they could.
I'm entertained endlessly by Leo Rush. I've never heard Action Andretti really talk before. You know, do something with them or do nothing with them. Not like do something every now and then for like a week with them.
That's what they're going to do, something with them weekly.
We saw
them weekly.
It's like monthly. We saw them in 1 month. They were in the crowd in those big jackets, and we said, "What the fuck is that?" And then we didn't see them for another month, and then like they were in a random match, and then we didn't see them for another month. It's just every month they make a random appearance.
Now they wandered out in the crowd last week too. Remember, they came out in the crowd to watch another segment, and then they were never seen again. So maybe they got lost or mugged or so. I don't know. I feel like if you're not at least 5'6", you ought to have an adult accompanying you at the crowd of a wrestling show.
And one more thing I'll say, Top Flight, they got fucking Layla Gray out there as their manager. She's one of the best looking women in wrestling, and she's like a feckless babyface manager. Why? How does that help anyone?
How does it help these two be babyfaces when everybody's just sitting there going, what the fuck? Neither one of these two are good enough looking to fucking deserve her. So what? It's just a distraction. Yeah. And why would she be there? Why do they need her help? Why is she there?
If you want her to be a manager or a valet, make her a heel one and actually get something out of it. She's a really good looking woman. But Missy Hyatt was really good looking when she was a feckless babyface manager for the Steiners. It wasn't really working.
And that was the Steiners. Instead of the miscellaneous, the nobodies. So that's them fighting words, Brian. When you call somebody a nobody.
I didn't know they were a team now. I knew there was one nobody. I didn't know they were going to be a team. That's pretty scary.
Nobody. No, so they came back.
No.
No. Nobody can do wrestling like you do. And nobody wants to see you too. So they came back from the break and then they called out MJF. And MJF's music plays. There's no MJF. And remember, he was a little nervous about what might happen to him when he, comes out there. So Shelton runs to the back and he goes through the curtain and he's going through the dark area and they go to what serves as the gorilla position for them. And they had just enough light in there that you could see that Tony Khan stands up with his headset on. And I believe there was poor Jerry Lynn, who has to just see his life flashed in front of his eyes every time he sits at that table for a taping.
And Sanjay.
But Tony Khan stands up, and that's where you talked about it earlier. He's doing the silent movie comedian faces like Ben Turpin with the big eyes and the wiggling of the non-existent mustache. And he's pointing, he's back here, but he's not really even mouthing words. He's just got the big smile. And MJF is hiding behind the table. And Tony does the marionette looking thing where the strings are being pulled. He's here. So Tony got on camera. And then Shelton goes around there and grabs MJF and MJ. Shelton, buddy, I was just looking for you, baby. Yeah, you want to go out there? Yeah, that's a good idea. So then they get out of there, thankfully, before Tony had some kind of goddamn America's Got Talent act he broke into. And then once they get in the ring, MVP's promo teased that they were just going to kill him. And finally, he has to vote one more time. And MVP gives his thumb up. And then Shelton Benjamin gives his thumb up. And then it's up to Bob. And Lashley puts his arm around MJF. And he sticks the thumb out and starts milking it. And in the back, Shelton is like in a stance for the super kick. Like, if that thumb goes down, I'm going to knock this guy's head off. And Lashley milks it, and thumbs up. And the crowd pops. They wanted to see that. And Lashley hugs, or MJF hugs Lashley.
Hugs Lashley. He jumped into his arms.
Well, he jumped into his arms.
I don't know if Lashley expected that, but that was pretty funny.
And he kind of dropped him on his ass. And the fans started chanting, "We hurt people. We hurt people." And now MVP says next week, the official contract signing of MJF into the Hurt Syndicate. But there's one more little tease that they did a little bit later on in the back where MJF was all smiles, and MVP, says next week we're going to present you your contract with the Hurt Syndicate. And MJF says, I'm going to have my lawyer go over it. And I'm sure it'll be great. And he brings in his lawyer, Mark Sterling. And MVP isn't real happy. He's talking about having a lawyer go over the contract. But I'm not happy that they've got this fucking underneath goof in this deal, which now is going to take away, hopefully at minimum, from what they're doing, because Sterling's a goof. He can only be funny. Nobody ever believed in him, and he never had a position where you should. So I don't know why they got him stuck in this fucking thing. But otherwise, that's the way they left it. There's going to be a contract presented next week, and MJF is going to have the fake lawyer look at it, and what might happen. But at least we got the three thumbs up.
And MJF said to MVP, what would you do if you had a contract? Wouldn't you have your lawyer look it over?
Yeah.
And MVP had to say, well, yeah, that's what I would do. But again, if MJF's so smart, why does he have the undercard comedy managing lawyer as his lawyer?
See, there's the fly in the ointment.
Although he did have that wonderful multi-week feud where it was Wardlow versus Mark Sterling and the security guards. That went somewhere.
But the thing is, Brian, for a while there, I was worried. I was thinking, is this going to be a situation where they're going to turn on MJF? They're going to beat MJF senseless. They're going to excommunicate him not only from the Hurt Syndicate, but from AEW in general. And MJF's going to be home without a job, without a career, without a way to make money. And nobody wanted to see that for poor Maxwell Jacob Feinstein, as Spectrum Cable calls him. They wanted to know that he had something to fall back on, Brian. And I don't want to betray any confidences here, but everybody knows that I'm quite an MJF fan. At least I have been in the past when he was allowed to shine. And I gave him a few words of encouragement and advice a few years ago. We were standing there, and he said to me, Jim Cornette, he said, how can I make sure that I don't end up broke and penniless in the wrestling profession like people have done before me? And I say one word to you, MJF, Shopify. And he took that.
What?
He took that advice to heart, and I'll have you know.
When did this conversation happen? Where?
Well, this was years ago, back in MLW when we were together. He picked my brain on a way to have something to fall back on, and I said Shopify. And I'll have you know that now MJF has MJF Incorporated Limited Partnership Co. ready to go on the internet as soon as this wrestling thing doesn't work out.
Well, we don't know that, and I guess maybe maybe the Hurt Syndicate will want to learn these kind of facts before they get involved.
I don't know whether I'm allowed to divulge that information or not, but I'll tell you what, he's going to be selling everything from whiskey to widgets, and Shopify is the commerce platform. Well, there's a big market for widgets these days. Just think about Bridget the widget. Shopify is the commerce platform behind 10% of all of the e-commerce in the United States.
Yes.
Imagine that it's midnight and you're lying in bed and you're hitting the button on that thing that you've been looking for, whether it's the latest in electronic marital aids or whether it's just a purty little vase that you want to sit on your nightstand and stare at as you're trying to sleep. But you're just hitting all these buttons. And that purple shop pay button is the one you're looking out for because that one makes it easy to buy something online. And if you're with Shopify, then you get access to that purple button, not to send people money, but to make money. Every time somebody hits a purple button, an angel gets its wings and you get paid because Shopify gives you a leg up with hundreds of beautiful, ready-to-go templates to express your brand style. They can tackle all the important tasks, inventory, payments, analytics, lawsuits, potential product liability.
Whoa. I don't know if they handle that. And of course, let's not worry about that. Let's talk to Mr. and Mrs. America doing business the right way with the right products, safely and securely for the American public. And of course, use them. Them being Shopify, they are there for you. They being Shopify for your business, Shopify.
Yes. Let's say, for example, that you want to sell some type of uranium on the dark web. Now, Shopify...
No, Shopify will have nothing to do with that, and hopefully you won't either, and the authorities should. Let's stay away from uranium on the dark web.
All right. Well, in that case, let's say that you want to take human remains and make lampshades out of them.
We will not say that. We will not say human remains. Let's say you want to take...
just the skin. Just the skin for the lampshade.
Let's say that's the science of the lambs. Let's say you want to sell a nice widget online.
Well, and all you've got to do is grab that widget round the neck and tell him, come here with me, widget. I'm going to sell you. And you put him up on Shopify and that widget is going to get sold and you're going to make money. The iconic purple shop pay button that's used by millions of businesses around the world can now be connected to you. And every time that somebody punches that purple button around the world, you'll get, as a matter of fact, they give you a device you can put in your pants pocket. It will give you a slight electric shock every time somebody presses. So you'll know that you're making money and that they're working for you.
No, they, not being Shopify, they will not be giving you anything that'll give you an electric shock.
Well, not even a shock, more like just a prod.
Like
they got the best converting checkout on the planet.
Like you're waiting for a table at the Cheesecake Factory?
Yeah, well, it's a little bit stiffer than that. You're going to know it's there, but that way you know that you've made money. Folks, if you want to see less carts being abandoned and more money going in your pocket because of your business that you're running online, thanks to the power of Shopify and their overlord capabilities over the rest of the puny peons on the internet, go right now to shopify.com/JCE for a $1 a month trial period. They are only going to charge you the sum of $1 per month. That's 100 pennies over 30 days for the trial period that they can show you what they can do for you. And you can then, in turn, later on, you're going to have to show them what you can do for them. And sometimes that can take a number of years and be quite painful. But Shopify.com.
It's not the way it works, but Shopify.com, yes.
Yes, /JCE. That's the way that works. And you're going to get that $1 a month trial period. Where get in deep today, because it's about as deep as I can possibly tell you to go. Shopify.com/JCE. That's what they're doing over there.
That's what they're doing over there. That's what we're doing over here. Of course, Shopify powers our online store with the t-shirts with Travis Heckel's artwork, and for the Drive-Thru, ArcadianVanguard.com. But Jim, let's get back to being balls deep in AEW Dynamite.
Well, I wish that you hadn't have said that, because the next match was a 4-way for some unknown reason, featuring Toni Storm, Sky Blue, Mina Melons, and Azumi. Have we seen Azumi before? Azumi is another one of the perky, frisky little Japanese small people that Kenny paved the way for them to import here.
Well, apparently she has a lot of fans. I didn't know how to pronounce her name. We've seen her name before, AZM, but apparently it's pronounced Azumi, and I had not seen her wrestle
AZM
before.
was a subgenre on X videos.
X video, is that a porno site?
Well, if you don't know. But they had a 4-way there. Well, I guess we're still on the we're talking about the
X
wrestling
videos
now. Yeah, we're still on X videos. Yeah, they had a 4-way thing there, and a bunch of girls' hair flew in the air, and they all fought. Now they're doing it that they're trying to, I guess, cross promote from Collision to Dynamite here. We've said they should do that, but maybe they ought to keep us up on a few things a little bit better than they do, because out of the blue, there's Tony Schiavone and Nigel McGuinness standing in the ring, and Nigel wants to apologize to Daniel Garcia. And I thought at first because he's apologizing because FTR beat him up on Collision. Apparently he was apologizing because he had all he could stand. He couldn't stand anymore, and he jumped on FTR and got Garcia disqualified. So Nigel apologized for overstepping his boundaries and interfering in old Danny's business. And when Nigel apologized to the fans booed that he apologized. And then Garcia didn't want the apology because he gave a rabble-rousing speech where FTR wants to end all of our careers, wants to do it. Garcia is a horrible promo, and the material was putrid, but half of this sounded like Garcia was turning heel, and almost like he was, I don't want your apology, like he was going to fuck Nigel up. But then he was like, if you're not going to stand beside me, so then run back to be just an announcer. Or you can stand up with us and fight these guys, or whatever the fuck was going on here. And then Stokely came out, and I said, fuck it. I didn't pay any attention until suddenly FTR came out from under the ring, and they jumped Garcia and beat the shit out of him until old Fat Mac Daddy came in with a fake crowbar and ran him off. The one tag team that we mentioned that you would take seriously against the Hurt Syndicate, but the Hurt Syndicate and FTR are both portrayed as heels, but the Hurt Syndicate, because they've been portrayed as really professional looking badass heels, the people are cheering them, whereas the people aren't really cheering FTR anymore, and they're not really overly booing them either, because they've just buried those guys. So, but now they're fucking Daniel Garcia and Nigel is the match here.
Because we haven't seen the color commentator can't take any more, so he's going to challenge the heel thing anytime recently. So hopefully, Nigel has no problem with Gunther, and he can return to commentary next week. Look, the problem is, FTR is stuck in that cycle too, like everyone else. If you're only working with these people, and they've been doing shit with Garcia for a while, as we've said before, it ain't going to happen with Garcia. He's put on no size, he doesn't look like a wrestler, and he does the worst promos ever. And Nigel, I don't think Nigel's really been fully established on Dynamite to the people who weren't following Ring of Honor or TNA, and mostly Ring of Honor, because he wasn't even Nigel McGuinness in TNA 15 years ago.
And that was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing is he did a match on a pay-per-view here not long ago, but on Dynamite, I mean, he's an ex-wrestler. You wouldn't have any idea potentially to how good he was from what they have presented here. Are you ready for the main event, young man? The big cage match, the big world title match, Samoa Joe and Dick the Boozer.
This match was putrid. Awful.
I like Joe.
Just awful.
I like Joe. But the best that Moxley can be is substandard. It's just not possible, is it? Because anything he touches turns to shit. And
if you watch his work is horrible. And then he relies on the same garbage over and over again. I don't know if it's because it's what he likes or just all he knows, the standing there and trading the bad-looking forearms over and over and over again. Jesus Christ. The worst matches, the worst fucking heel stable, the worst everything.
What did you say when Joe was hitting the ropes and coming back for the foot wash on the face and all that stuff? He can't even sell that. He just lays there and you see the foot go by him because there's no registering or reaction of the thing. But anyway, they started this match almost at 10 o'clock. So they went like 5 minutes or whatever, and then took a break at 9:57. And they were on break until 10 o'clock. And during the break, not only did all the groups apparently come to ringside, but Moxley started bleeding like a stuck hog. So in the break, you miss the excitement. I don't know what the fuck they're doing. And when they came back from the break, they were standing in the middle of the ring trading forearms. And at this point, the hard camera couldn't get its focus through the cage. I thought I was watching an old VHS tape. But finally, Joe gets a sleeper on Moxley, and the baby faces are all there to stop all the heels from climbing the cage. And Willow can stop Schaefer, and they get another girl to stop Yuta, whatever. But some guy then in a black hoodie, we've never seen this before. Some guy in a black hoodie runs up and slides the briefcase through the corner of the cage where it meets turnbuckles into Moxley, and Moxley hits Joe over the head with the briefcase and covers him 1, 2, 3. And then the guy whips his hood off, and there is no reaction anywhere because I was going, who the fuck is that guy? And then the announcer said, oh, it's Gabe Kidd. He looked like bald guy with a red beard.
Hey, Josh Alexander took off his headgear. That was my first thought.
And yeah, they're very similar, aren't they? And then Kidd and Claudio beat up Hobbs. Schaefer beats up Willow. Gabe hugs Moxley. And then the Buckaroos music plays. And here they come. And there's no reaction, Brian. Did you hear any reaction, Brian?
There hasn't been a reaction in a while for them.
They walk down the ramp and wearing the curious fashion choices that they have. And they get in the ring and they offer their hands to Moxley. So now they're going to join with the Boar Horsemen. But then suddenly music plays, and here comes Kenny. And Kenny comes out and gets a fight with the heels on the floor. Boom, boom, boom. But then O'Sleepy comes out again in the Marlon Perkins outfit from Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom.
It's like a new take on David Byrne's outfit. And Talking Heads. Stop
making sense. And they get Kenny in the ring. When Maddie of the Lollipop Guild has come out, he's got a walkie-talkie because since they're EVPs, he got them to raise the cage and he can get them to lower the cage, right? Because they're calling the shots, which is another thing about this whole thing that doesn't make any goddamn sense because apparently the whole idea of Moxley's thing is to He hated the way the company was being run and the people in it, so he wanted to fuck it all up. So let's go to two of the people that started it to be on the same side. What the fuck? So they lower the cage and all the heels are in there beating up Joe and Kenny. And they are not recreating the atmosphere of, be it four heels on Dusty in the cage in the Omni. Because the fans are just kind of.
Did you see how Okada was able to leave?
Oh, and I forgot to mention that because you mentioned it to me and I said, what? I went back. Okada didn't get in the cage with the rest of them because somehow while he was on the floor, Hong Kong Phooey, Spitball Bailey himself ran out and fought Okada off. But the reason why I didn't know that is because when you go back and look at the show, it's on screen for 3 seconds in the dark back of the arena that Okada is lazily jogging out of the entranceway, and Bailey is behind him throwing the kicks at the guy's back. I'm going to kick you away from here. And so they were gone and they didn't even get in the cage. And then they've got fucking the cages down and they're beating up Kenny and Joe, and then Swerve's music plays. And he just walks out to the ring and climbs the cage, and all the heels turn and stare at him on top. And he jumps off on them, and they all catch him, and he lands, and they all fall down. And then the cage raises, and the heels leave. And there's Matt on the walkie-talkie, hurry, hurry, hurry. There's still like 6 of them. And it's Swerve. They've got the other 2 guys dead. And they raise the cage and all the heels run out. And then Swerve gets to say once again how he's the most dangerous man in AEW. And he challenged them all for the garbage match at the pay-per-view. Anarchy in the arena. Formerly football field fuckery. And how many Boar Horsemen and how many Buckaroos which part is going to be? Who's the teams here?
Well, if it's 5-on-5, I think that's what it's been in the past. Obviously, Moxley on one side, Samoa Joe on the other, you would think. The Bucks and Gabe Kidd on Moxley's side. Maybe Okada too. And on the other side, you would have Kenny, Swerve, and then there are 2 open spots. Is it Speedball? Is it Powerhouse Hobbs who was involved in this? Is it, dare I say, Shapoopy? I don't know.
It better be Hobbs instead of Bailey. Or I don't know which team to put my money on. Would you send a Girl Scout into a goddamn war zone?
Did you see those
Well, I guess that's
kicks?
kind of what the Jacksons are.
It may be valuable to have someone who can kick people away in the middle of that match. If you're trying to do something and one of the other guys is coming, you need someone who can just start flashing those kicks like a helicopter and get rid of them.
Well, it might be something to have somebody that can kick people away because they've already got plenty of them that can run people off.
That Speedball Bailey thing's the funniest thing ever. Because someone said, go, you go out there, you go. And he goes out there and no one sees it.
I don't, did the announcers mention it? I think they mentioned, did they mention his name?
I don't think they said anything.
I think one of them after he was gone said, wait, was that Bailey?
Well, there it is. We get Anarchy in the Arena coming up at Double or Nothing. That'll be a fun review. It always is. It's always a memorable bad review. Will they play the music nonstop? That's been a thing in the past. Remember, Chris Jericho made a big deal out of the brilliance of his character because he knew the heel would hate music, so he had to turn off the music. But we've seen it in the past. Will we see it here?
Turn off the radio. Well, Brian, here's a question I've got. Did anybody watch this thing this week? And we're talking about, what is the date on this program? May the
14th.
14th. Did anybody watch the thing?
Well, we have them here, the AEW Dynamite ratings, according to WrestleNomics. May 14th, 2025, 8 to 10:13 p.m. On average, watched by 682,000 viewers.
Oh, so they put the cage match in, the big cage. It brought them another, 50 or 60,000 people from what they've been doing. But the question is, did they hang out to the end to see it?
Well, this is up 8% from last week, which was 629, and 14% over the trailing 4-week average of 601,000 viewers up against the Knicks and the Celtics. You would have thought that really could have hurt this, and it doesn't appear that it did.
I don't know that a lot of the AEW faithful are actually fans of real sports.
Let's go to the quarter hours. These were compiled by WrestleNomics, AEW Dynamite on TBS, May 14th, 2025, not counting Max. Allegedly. Quarter 1, 8 to 8:15 p.m., Adam Page and Will Ospreay versus Josh Alexander and Konosuke Takeshita with picture-in-picture, 732,000 viewers.
Aha, so they appear like they're going to keep their audience this week. I can't wait to see how this develops.
We develop into quarter 2, 8:15 to 8:30 p.m., the continuation of the previous tag match, a Jon Moxley Samoa Joe video, and a Top Flight promo, 689,000 viewers.
And that's a drop of only 43,000, which is much less than normal from quarter 1 to quarter 2. And they're going to keep pretty steady to make this average.
Well, we go to quarter 3, 8:30 to 8:45 p.m. Zack Gowen versus Ricochet with picture-in-picture and an MJF promo, 664,000 viewers.
Okay, they may have left for a little while on the one-legged guy, and they'll be back shortly.
Well, we go to...
They hopped out for something to drink.
We go to quarter 4, 8:45.
They'll hop right back in.
Why don't they hire the wrong one-legged guy like Laurinaitis did for a natural feud between the two one-legged guys?
Zack Gowen used to be a waiter at the IHOP, by the way, but...
Okay, let's stop it. IHOP is awesome for French toast. 8:45 to 9 p.m., quarter 4. Top Flight versus Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin. And the post-match with Dustin Rhodes, Sammy Guevara in his prom outfit, Lio Rush and Action Andretti, otherwise known as Crew, and an ad break, 696,000 viewers.
All right, so they brought 32,000 back and got the second highest rated quarter so far besides the start to see the Hurts and their various businesses.
Well, that continues into quarter 5, the big 9 o'clock hour, 9 to 9:15 p.m. The Hurt Business and MJF's live promo, an ad break, and Toni Storm versus Mina Shirakawa. WrestleNomics wrote it as ZAM, Z-A-M, versus Azium. Is that how you said it? Azium?
Azumi. Azumi.
Versus Sky Blue, 685,000 viewers.
And at the top of the hour there, they lost 11,000, but the girls' match did start fairly quickly.
We go quickly to quarter 6, 9:15 to 9:30 p.m., the continuation of the previously mentioned four-way match with picture-in-picture, and the post-match with Mercedes Moné and Jamie Hayter, and the Sabu tribute video with Taz, 690,000 viewers.
Remarkably, this is the most consistent AEW television program ever, because they have had the biggest range was 68,000 from quarter 1 to quarter 3, and then they've bounced back up halfway. 689, 664, 696, 685, 690. They got to be waiting for the cage match. That's the only explanation.
Well, we go to quarter 7, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. An ad break. MJF and MVP with Mark Sterling in the back. The Nigel McGuinness, Daniel Garcia, Stokely Hathaway, FTR, Daddy Magic live promo. Jesus Christ. And an ad break. 655,000 viewers.
Ooh, maybe they shouldn't have put that right before the cage match because now that's the lowest quarter of the show, and they lost 35,000 in 15 minutes.
Well, we go to the next 15-minute segment, quarter 8. I remind you we have a 13-minute overrun. Quarter 8, 9:45 to 10 p.m. Samoa Joe versus Jon Moxley in a cage. Picture-in-picture ads. 651,000 viewers.
Jesus.
13-minute overrun with the big post-match with the Death Riders, Powerhouse Hobbs, Gabe Kidd, Okada, Omega, Young Bucks,
Okada, Omega, oh, I want to take you.
Swerve, and don't forget about Speedball. 673,000 viewers.
Okay, I'm mixed because I said they were waiting for the cage match. The cage match starts, and it's the lowest quarter of the night. And the overrun, counting, I assume, the people that tuned in to see the first 15 minutes of Modern Family, picked up 22,000, but it was still the third lowest quarter of the fourth lowest quarter of the whatever. The cage match didn't do so good in the overall scheme of things. It seems like it kept them there, and once it started, they said, fuck it. Very confusing.
Well, that was AEW Dynamite. Obviously, things are heating up for them on the road to Double or Nothing. They're doubling down.
And Saturday night's main event on Saturday and Double or Nothing on Sunday for Memorial Day weekend. We don't even get a holiday from this abuse. Oh, well, Brian, what in the world are they doing over there to abuse people at the Arcadian Vanguard Network this week?
No one's being abused, and I'm losing my voice, so we'll make this quick. Go through the archive of everything or do whatever you need to do. On Twitter at Superpodcast, Facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard. Every day, the wrestling news. You get everything that's happening for free. What's better than that? The Morning Wrestling Newscast with Mike Sempervive. Get it today, thewrestlingnews.com. Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon has a great episode up with the Blue Meanie, a tribute to Sabu. Hear that today at suawpod.com. Look for Shut Up and Wrestle wherever you find your favorite podcast. And of course, the 605 Super Podcast.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
The Mothership. All right. I was hoping the extra drama would hide what has been taken away. Go through the archive, 605pod.com, wherever you find your favorite podcast, The Mothership.
You said 3 hours ago, I woke up with a sore throat and I'm losing my voice.
It's starting now. I powered through for a while. The adrenaline of this scintillating wrestling talk really got me going.